The fork was still in my hand when her text came in. It buzzed on the table next to the breadbasket. We were sitting outside a cafe that served everything with figs and used words like heritage grains. Her seat was empty. She'd gone to the restroom 10 minutes earlier. I didn't expect to read anything private. I wasn't snooping. It was just right there. Bright screen. Name glowing. The message preview said, "Tell him I need space. I'll send it now." I blinked. I stared. I felt the metal fork pressing against my palm like I was gripping it too tight. Then came the second buzz. This one was for me. From Alice. "I think I need some space today. Just some air. We'll talk later." She texted it while still in the building. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just watched the air between me and her chair shift, like maybe the world had just slightly tilted and I wasn't buckled in. She came back 5 minutes later and smiled like nothing happened. Sat down, picked up her glass, said, "So what did I miss?" I said nothing, just nodded, and asked the waiter for the check I hadn't finished earning. That was the last time I saw her sit across from me as my wife. I didn't say a word on the way home. Didn't even ask who the text was meant for. I didn't want to know. But 2 hours later, I opened her laptop. I'd never done that before. I didn't even know the password. But muscle memory betrayed her. She'd left it open. And just like that, the dam broke. She wasn't just asking for space. She was clearing the floor, making sure I wouldn't be around that night. Because someone else would be. I scrolled, and what I found in her messages didn't just hurt. It rewrote our entire marriage. I didn't confront her that night. I watched her from the hallway instead, standing just out of view, listening to the sound of her zipping up her overnight bag, like I hadn't just read the messages about her so-called hotel work event. Like I hadn't seen the name Camden pop up over and over again in her chats. She stepped into the living room in those black ankle boots she only wore when she wanted to feel tall. Her hair was freshly done, not the careless ponytail I'd grown used to. She was glowing, and it wasn't for me. "You sure you'll be okay with dinner on your own?" she asked, almost sweetly. I nodded. She leaned in, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek like we were still married in her mind, and said, "Don't wait up. They've got me hosting some late-night brainstorm thing. Agencies full of lunatics." I almost laughed. Brainstorm. What a stupid word. She could have said anything. A networking mixer. A flight delay. A migraine. But she said brainstorm. Like we were still 25 and everything was one big creative hustle. The door closed behind her, and I stood there in the hallway for what must have been 20 minutes, staring at the imprint her bag wheels left on the rug. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even punch a wall like those dramatic breakup movies teach you to do. I opened my laptop and went back to the thread. The message that started it all was sent at 12:11 p.m. "He's distracted. I'll text him in 5. Just stick to the plan." The next one. "I'll say I need air. Or that I'm burnt out. He won't push back. He never does." She was right. I didn't. I read the full thread like I was reading a script written by someone who had studied me, memorized my weaknesses, and built an escape plan around them. Camden's responses were shorter. Cocky. One even said, "He still think you love him." Her reply? "He still lights a candle in the morning." I wanted to throw up. Not because she laughed at me, but because I was right. She had noticed the candle. She just let me believe it mattered. I clicked her calendar app. The work event was fake. The hotel confirmation? Booked with her personal card. I zoomed in on the screenshot she'd sent Camden. She wore the same black dress she told me she didn't like anymore. Said it didn't fit her right. And just like that, I realized I didn't know who I'd been married to. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined them checking in together. Her laughing in the elevator. His hand on her lower back. Her whispering something that used to belong to me. By sunrise, I had made up my mind. I would let it play out. No confrontation. No breakdown. No hero's ending. I would give her all the space she wanted, and watch how far she'd go before she realized someone had been watching the whole time. Because the thing about people like her is, they don't fall when you push them. They fall when you stop catching them. I wasn't trying to ruin her life. I just wanted to remember what the truth looked like. That morning, while she was still gone, while she was still wrapped in hotel sheets that weren't ours, I opened the old drawer in my office and pulled out the small silver drive she gave me 3 Christmases ago. The one she forgot about. The one I hadn't used since I backed up her dying laptop. She thought I'd thrown it out, but I hadn't. Plugging it in felt like opening a time capsule. Photos, documents, audio messages, video files with names like Work Trip NYC and Client Dinner 2022. I didn't expect to find anything relevant. I wasn't even sure why I was looking. But I found something anyway. A video file, dated 2 months ago, titled Only Cam. I almost didn't click it. My stomach already felt like it was splitting open. But I did. The video wasn't dirty. At least not in the way people expect. It was worse. It was the two of them laughing, sitting at the bar we used to go to every Sunday after errands. The one with the mismatched stools and the bartender who always gave her free olives. She was wearing my hoodie, the one she said shrunk in the dryer. His arm was slung over the back of her chair like he'd always belonged there. She tilted her head and said, "He still thinks I'm just tired from work. Can you believe that?" And Camden, the man with the voice of someone who's never been told no, leaned in and said, "It's kinda hot, honestly. Like being the guy in the shadows. The secret." She laughed, really laughed. A laugh I hadn't heard in months. Then she added, "Don't worry. I won't keep him around much longer." I paused the video and stared at her face. Not because she looked different, but because she looked happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. And not with me. I copied the video to my phone. Then I copied everything else. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. I wasn't interested in revenge. I didn't want to blow up her life or send the video to her boss or her family or her friends. What I wanted was something quieter. I wanted to vanish, without a word, without a trace, without a fight. I wanted her to look around one day and realize I was just gone. So I called out sick from work. Took a few vacation days. I packed up essentials and left everything else untouched. I didn't slam drawers or make a mess. I didn't leave a dramatic note. I just left the house looking exactly how she'd left it. Like I was still in it. Like I still loved her. Like I hadn't seen the truth. Then I turned off my phone, locked the door, and walked away. I didn't tell anyone. Not my brother, not my coworkers, not even my landlord. I didn't run. I just erased myself. And when she came home to the silence, to the untouched bed, the missing dog, the turned-off phone, that's when the cracks started forming. Because you don't realize how loud someone's absence is until you hear it echo through your lies. She didn't notice I was gone right away. I know that because her first call didn't come until almost 10 p.m. The night after I vanished. Not morning, not noon, not even after work. 10. At night. A single call. No voicemail. Just a missed call from her name lighting up on my burner phone, the one she didn't know existed. I watched it ring from a cheap motel 2 towns over, the kind with vending machines that don't work and a buzzing light in the hallway that flickered like it was stuck mid-thought. She didn't call again until the next morning. Then again, and again. Still, I didn't answer. She texted afternoon. "Where are you? Did something happen?" The question marks were the part that made me laugh. Not the panic, the punctuation. She always hated excessive punctuation. Said it looked desperate. Guessed the rules changed when she needed something. At 3 p.m., she sent another. "Okay, seriously. This isn't funny. I'm worried." That one almost got me. Because in another world, in another timeline, she could have been worried. She could have been the woman who called hospitals, drove around the city, knocked on doors, filed missing person reports. But I knew better. I could see her panic wasn't about love. It was about losing control. By 6 p.m., she escalated. She called my mother. I know this because my mom called me from her landline, twice. I hadn't told her anything. Didn't want her involved. She's too gentle. Too kind to process betrayal without trying to fix it like it's a broken chair instead of a fractured soul. But I answered, because she's my mother. "David," she said. Her voice was sharp. Tired. She just called me. Crying. Said you disappeared. Is everything okay? I didn't know how to answer that. Is everything okay? What a ridiculous question when your wife of 7 years uses space as a decoy to cheat and then panics not because you're gone, but because her cover is gone. "I'm safe," I told her. Just needed to be alone. There was a pause. I could feel her mind racing. "You want to tell me what happened?" "No," I said softly. "Not yet." She didn't push. That's what made it worse. She didn't lecture me. Didn't guilt-trip me into going back. She just said, "Then you stay wherever you are until you can breathe again." God, that broke me more than anything else. She knew. Somehow, she knew without knowing. Meanwhile, Alice continued spiraling. I checked the shared location she'd forgotten to turn off. She was driving aimlessly for hours. She hit the pharmacy, the bookstore, even parked outside my office building like I might come walking out like a sitcom character returning from commercial break. Then she did something I didn't expect. She posted a photo of us. Old one. From a hiking trip we took 3 years ago. The caption read, "Love hard, because you never know what tomorrow holds." The comments were full of hearts and "you two are perfect" and sending hugs. It was performative, calculated, a digital alibi. And in that moment, I saw her for exactly what she was. Not broken, not devastated, just trying to rewrite the narrative before anyone else could. But I wasn't interested in correcting her, because the longer I stayed gone, the more cracks she had to cover. And eventually, she'd run out of hands. By the third day of my disappearance, her texts stopped sounding panicked and started sounding like bait. At first it was short check-ins. "Where are you? Please just talk to me." But then the tone shifted. She started sending me memories. Photos of the dog. Screenshots of old messages. Even a voice memo of her laughing on our wedding day. Each one came with a line like, "Remember this?" or "We were so happy here." I read them all in a cheap diner at the edge of the highway, the kind of place that smells like burnt coffee and wet coats, and every message felt like a hook disguised as nostalgia. I didn't reply, but I started noticing the pattern. Each time she sent something sentimental, a second message followed from an unknown number a few minutes later. Different names, different area codes, all asking vague things like, "He with you?" or "Did you hear from him?" It wasn't coincidence. She was spreading a net, not to find me, but to control the story. If she could show people screenshots of her desperate messages, then she'd be the abandoned wife, and I'd be the villain who ran away. I sat there at the counter with my eggs going cold and realized she wasn't trying to apologize. She was staging a performance. She wanted evidence. She wanted texts she could screenshot, calls she could record, anything she could twist later to make herself look like the wounded party. It was brilliant in its own ugly way. She'd always been good at spinning a story. She used to tell me she should have been a publicist instead of an event planner. Guess she finally found her audience. That night, she went a step further. She texted, "I've told people you're having a breakdown. Please, at least let me help you. It's not safe." And then a second text from an unknown number. "Do you want me to call the cops?" My stomach turned. Not because I was scared of the police, but because I could see her building a trap out of concern. If she could get a wellness check on me, she'd have a paper trail, a file, proof that she tried. She could stand in front of anyone and say, "Look how I worried about him." I almost responded. Almost. My thumb hovered over the screen. I typed out, "Stop." Then I deleted it. Then I typed, "You don't get to do this to me." Deleted that too. In the end, I shut off the phone again and left it in the glove compartment of the rental car like it was a live grenade. Because if I gave her even one reply, even one breadcrumb, she'd weave it into her story like a golden thread and make me the crazy one. Instead, I went back to my motel room, opened my laptop, and did something I hadn't done before. I started documenting. Screenshots of every message, every post, every unknown number. A timeline of every lie. Not because I wanted to expose her publicly, not yet, but because for the first time in years, I was building something that belonged to me, not to us. Quietly, in the background, I was turning my invisibility into a weapon she couldn't see coming. And as I organized it all into folders, color-coded and dated, I realized something strange. I didn't feel crushed anymore. I didn't even feel angry. I felt curious. How far would she go now that she'd lost the script? What would she do when the helpless wife act stopped working? How long until the mask slipped and the truth came out on its own? I closed the laptop, lay back on the creaky motel bed, and stared at the ceiling. Outside, a train horn blew in the distance. I wasn't running anymore. I was waiting, watching, letting her build her own case against herself. And deep down, I already knew, the longer I stayed silent, the louder her lies would sound. This wasn't me disappearing. This was me letting her collapse without touching a thing. I knew she'd find me eventually. That's the thing about people like her. They can't stand loose ends. And I'd made myself the biggest loose end of her life. I'd been staying at a short-term rental just outside of town, under a fake name, paid in cash. Nothing fancy. Just a dusty little guest house behind an elderly woman's property. No cameras, no smart locks, no questions asked. The kind of place that smelled like forgotten stories. I kept the lights off at night, ate quietly, walked the dog only after midnight. I became a shadow with a heartbeat. So when the knock came, I froze. Not a loud, frantic knock. Just a slow, steady tapping, like someone trying not to spook a deer. 3 taps. A pause. Then again. I peeked through the blinds, and there she was. Alice. She was standing in the glow of the porch light, like she'd been rehearsing the pose. Arms crossed. Jacket too thin for the cold. Her hair tucked behind one ear. No makeup. She knew better than to show up looking done up. She was trying to sell sincerity. Vulnerability. The woman who was worried, not guilty. I didn't open the door. She waited for almost 2 minutes before speaking. Her voice was muffled but clear. I just want to talk. I didn't answer. I know you're in there. Still, I stayed silent. Then she said it. The thing she'd been holding. I know what you saw. I felt the air leave my lungs. She hadn't admitted anything until now. Not in any text. Not in any call. Not even in the performance she'd been parading around social media. But here she was, saying it plainly out loud. And somehow, it didn't make me feel powerful. It made me sick. I messed up, she continued. I don't even know why I did it. I thought I needed space, and it got out of control. Camden wasn't. He didn't mean anything. Not like you do. That name, Camden, hearing it from her mouth, made something inside me jolt like a cold knife. She took a shaky breath. I didn't come here to lie. Or to beg. I didn't expect silence to hurt this much. That almost made me laugh. Silence. She'd weaponized it for years. Used it like a scalpel. Withheld affection, attention, warmth, drip-fed them when it served her, and pulled them away when I needed them most. And now she wanted a conversation? She stepped closer to the door. I could hear her shoes on the wooden planks. Please. I know I've lost your trust. But I'm scared, David. You've always been the stable one. The calm one. You disappearing, that's not you. I pressed my back against the wall and stared at the ceiling. My fingers trembled, not from fear, but from something deeper. Grief, maybe. Or the weight of having to be the calm one even now, when every nerve in me wanted to scream. I get it if you don't want me back, she said softly. But can you at least give me closure? Something? Anything? That word. Closure. How clean it sounded in her mouth. Like a file being archived. She knocked one last time, then walked away slowly, waiting for the door to open behind her. It didn't. I watched her car drive off through the gap in the hedges. She sat inside for a while before finally pulling onto the road. Only then did I breathe again. She knew I was gone. She knew I saw. But she still didn't know what I had, or what I was planning. And that meant she still thought she had a chance to control the ending. She had no idea I'd been recording. Not the video. Not the laptop files. Her. This visit. Every word. I reached for my phone and replayed the audio I'd captured from behind the door. Her tone. Her phrasing. The fake pauses. The performance. I wasn't keeping it to punish her. I was keeping it because I needed to remember that the same woman who once whispered I was her home could stand on a porch and feed me carefully measured regret, not because she loved me, but because she hated not being believed. And that's when I knew. She wasn't sorry. She was just scared of being the only one left holding the match when the fire finally spread. I stared at the message for 15 minutes before I pressed send. It wasn't long. Just one line, 10 words. Not a threat, not a warning. Just a statement that I knew would flip the entire dynamic. I have the video. You should start talking now. No name. No signature. No threats of exposure or legal action or revenge. Just a quiet notification that his secret wasn't a secret anymore. I didn't even send it from my number. I used a temporary account through a secure app, the kind that leaves no trace once deleted. I wasn't interested in a conversation. I wanted a reaction. It didn't take long. 3 hours later, the message was marked read. 15 minutes after that, his Instagram went private. By the end of the day, his LinkedIn page was wiped. Camden Reed, the smug consultant with the rooftop photos and cocktail-in-hand selfies, had started erasing himself like a man trying to outrun a rumor he knew was true. But I wasn't done. I didn't want revenge. Not really. Revenge is loud and messy and usually burns the person holding the match. What I wanted was disruption. A crack in their glass world. A splinter of fear they couldn't remove. And now, they had it. The next morning, Alice vanished from social media. No warning. No posts. No final poetic quote. She just ghosted everything. Like she'd been caught mid-performance and the curtain was yanked down. I waited. 1 day. 2. Nothing. On the third day, my mother called again. She stopped by. I froze. She said she just wanted to talk. I didn't let her in. My mom's voice was steady, but I could hear the edge under it. The part of her that had been patient for too long. Alice must have been desperate to show up there, not for sympathy, but to control the narrative. But she'd underestimated the one person who had known me longer than she had. She left a letter, Mom added. Didn't read it. Your call. I didn't pick it up. I didn't even ask for a photo. Because I knew what would be in it. Not truth, but theater. Probably another carefully crafted paragraph about mental health and emotional overwhelm. Maybe something about childhood trauma or needing time to recenter. She was good with words. Too good. I had no interest in being swayed by something that read like a Pinterest apology. Instead, I checked the folder on my laptop. The evidence was still there. Untouched. Labeled. Quiet. I hadn't shared it. Not with friends. Not online. Not even with a lawyer. And that was what made it powerful. Because while they scrambled behind the scenes, deleting accounts, hiding connections, rewriting timelines, I sat still. I didn't accuse. I didn't leak. I didn't scream. I let silence do the screaming. And in that silence, I noticed something strange. For the first time in months, I wasn't replaying her laugh. Or the way she said my name when she wanted something. Or the guilt that lived in the back of my throat like a ghost. I was thinking about after. About what comes next when the storm calms and the rubble settles. Because I'd spent so long being the man who lit candles and waited. Now I was the man who watched people flinch at shadows they created themselves. She asked to meet one last time. No text this time. She sent a handwritten letter to my mother's house. Inside was a short note. I won't ask for anything after this. Just one conversation. She named the park where we used to walk our dog. Said she'd be there at noon on Saturday. Said she'd understand if I didn't come. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel the need to outmaneuver her. I just wanted to see what remained. When I got there, she was sitting on the same bench where we once argued about what to name our future kids. She looked smaller somehow. Not fragile, but shrunk, like all the scaffolding she'd built around herself had finally collapsed. She didn't wear makeup. Her eyes were red but dry. She didn't get up when she saw me. I sat down next to her. For a while, we didn't say anything. Just let the wind fill the space between us like it had more to say than either of us ever could. Finally, she whispered, I don't know how to ask for forgiveness. I don't even think I deserve it. I looked at her, not like a husband, not like a betrayed man, just like a person who had once loved another person. You don't, I said, but I'm not here to punish you either. She closed her eyes and nodded. I lied, she said, about a lot, but mostly to myself. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I thought you were boring, she added. I thought stability meant weakness. I thought excitement was what I needed. But all it gave me was chaos. This time, I did respond. I gave you peace. You set it on fire. She winced. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. I hope you find something better, she said after a long pause. Something that feels like home without you having to light candles to convince yourself it is. I stood up. So did she. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. There was no dramatic goodbye. Just two people who had finally reached the end of the page. And as I walked away, I didn't feel hollow. I didn't feel broken. I felt free. I moved into a small place 2 towns over. Nothing fancy, just big enough for me and the dog. I got a job at a bookstore. Started reading again. Started writing again. Started remembering what it was like to exist without constantly shrinking myself to fit someone else's frame. Some nights, I still wonder what would have happened if I'd never read that message. If I'd kept smiling through it. If I'd forgiven too easily. But then I look at where I am now. And I'm grateful I didn't. Because sometimes, the best thing someone can say to you isn't I'm sorry. It's nothing at all. And the best thing you can do in return is let that silence finally become peace.